The courtroom buzzed with tension. Officer Kyle Decker stood rigid, his face pale as Judge Hamilton glared down at him from the bench across the room. Jade Bennett sat calmly, hands folded, eyes sharp. Officer DEA, the judge's voice cut through the murmurs. You unlawfully detained a senior federal agent. Do you understand the gravity of your actions? Decca blinked, stunned. Jade leaned forward, her voice cold and precise. I warned you, but you didn't want to listen. The gavel slammed. How did it come to this? Before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from. If you stand for justice, hit like and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Millfield was the kind of town that clung to its past, like rust on an old chain. American flags, faded from years under the relentless sun, fluttered limply along Main Street. Mom-and-pop shops with peeling paints lined the sidewalks, their window displays unchanged for decades. The town had its own rhythm, slow, predictable, and fiercely resistant to anything or anyone that didn't fit its mold. In places like Millfield, history wasn't just remembered, it was enforced. Among the locals, familiarity bred comfort. Faces were known, routines were shared, and the unwritten rules of belonging were passed down like family heirlooms. Strangers stood out like cracks in the sidewalk, and Millfield had little tolerance for cracks. It was a place where people didn't just notice differences, they policed them. Officer Kyle Decker thrived in a town like this. In his Navy uniform, crisp and commanding, he patrolled the streets like a king surveying his domain. Deere had worn the badge for 15 years, not just to uphold the law, but to shape it around his worldview. To him, the badge wasn't just authority, it was power. And power, in Decca's mind, belonged to men like him. He knew who belonged in Millfield and who didn't. He made sure those who didn't were reminded of it often and without mercy. Minorities, outsiders, and anyone who dared to challenge the town's status quo found themselves at the wrong end of his scrutiny. Complaints had come and gone, but none had ever stuck. Decca was careful, always careful, enough to stay within the bounds of plausible deniability. He'd learned long ago that the system was built to protect men like him. It was early morning when Decca began his patrol, the sun barely cresting the horizon. He sipped coffee gone cold an hour ago, his patrol car idling at the corner of Jefferson and Pine. The radio crackled with mundane updates, nothing worth his attention. He glanced at his watch, almost 8. School traffic was thinning and the town was settling into its sluggish weekday rhythm. Decca thrived on routine, but not the kind that came with community service or helping kids cross the street. He liked the part of the job that reminded people who was in charge. His mood, already sour from a restless night, made him itch for someone to remind of that fact. That's when he saw her. The woman walked with purpose down the cracked sidewalk, her heels clicking softly against the concrete. She was tall, poised, and undeniably out of place in a town like Millfield. Dark skin glowing under the morning sun, she moved like someone who belonged, not just here, but anywhere she chose to be. A fitted navy blazer hugged her frame, and tailored slacks fell in sharp lines to polished shoes. Her hair, styled in tight curls, framed a face that held nothing but quiet confidence. She carried a sleek leather briefcase in one hand, the strap of her bag resting easily on her shoulder. Everything about her spoke of success, control, and self-assurance, the kind of demeanor that set Decker on edge. It wasn't just that she was black, it was that she didn't carry the weight of it, the caution he expected from someone like her in a town like this. She walked like she had every right to be there. Decca's grip tightened on the steering wheel. There was nothing illegal about walking down the street, not even in Millfield, but there was something about her that triggered his instinct for control. Confidence like that, especially from a black woman, always read to him as defiance. It didn't matter if she wasn't breaking the law. People like her thought they were above it, and that was enough for Decca. His eyes narrowed as she crossed in front of his cruiser, her gaze steady and uninterested in the patrol car watching her like a predator sizing up a prey. No one like her had business here, not dressed like that, not walking like she owned the place. Decca thumbed the radio, ready to call it in, but stopped himself. There was no reason to report this. She wasn't a threat to the town, but she was a threat to his authority. Decca tossed the empty coffee cup into the passenger seat and wiped his hand on his uniform pants. He flicked on the patrol lights, red and blue strobes slicing through the sleepy calm of the morning. The tires crunched against loose gravel as he pulled out from the curb, speeding up to catch up. The woman didn't flinch when the lights flashed in her peripheral vision. She slowed, then stopped, turning her head just enough to acknowledge the patrol car crawling beside her, calm, controlled, unbothered. Decker hated that. He rolled down the window, his face set in a mask of professional indifference. "Ma'am," he called out, voice cool and sharp. "Stop right there." The woman halted, adjusting the strap of her briefcase. Her expression didn't shift. Not confusion, not concern, not even mild irritation, just calm, unreadable composure. The kind of reaction Decker despised. He was used to hesitation, to stammered explanations, not this quiet certainty. It felt like a challenge, even if she hadn't meant it that way. "Is there a problem, officer?" Her voice was steady, polite, but completely unfeared. Decker's fingers twitched against the steering wheel. That tone, firm and even, rubbed him the wrong way. He didn't hear fear. He didn't hear deference. He heard someone who didn't believe she was under his control. "ID," Decker snapped, pushing the door open and stepping out. He loomed over her, 6 feet of polyester-clad authority. The woman didn't argue. She moved slowly, deliberately, mindful of how quickly situations like this could escalate. Her hand dipped into her blazer, and Decker's palm instinctively rested on his holster. He didn't draw, not yet, but the message was clear. One wrong move and this ends badly. Jade noticed, her brows lifted, almost amused as she pulled out a slim wallet and flipped it open. A Virginia driver's license sat beside a federal badge, Department of Justice, Senior Investigator Jade Bennett. Decker barely glanced at the credentials. He saw what he wanted to see, a black woman standing where she didn't belong, dressed like she owned the place, flashing what was probably a fake badge. His prejudice filled in the blanks faster than reason could catch up. "Never heard of you," he muttered, shoving the wallet back at her. "This is a restricted area, hands behind your back." For the first time, Jade's composure cracked just a hairline fracture of disbelief, quickly smoothed over. She didn't resist, didn't argue. She just turned slowly, placing her hands behind her as instructed. No struggle, no pleading, nothing Decker could twist into justification later. Decker frowned, thrown off balance. He'd expected pushback, something to fuel his narrative. Her compliance irritated him more than resistance would have. Scowling, he snapped the cuffs tighter than necessary, waiting for the inevitable flinch. It never came. "You're making a mistake," Jade said quietly as he led her to the patrol car. Decker laughed, short and bitter. "Ha, you people always say that." He shoved her into the back seat, ignoring the soft sigh she gave as she settled in. "Let's see what the judge thinks." As he walked around to the driver's side, Decker allowed himself a small, satisfied smirk. He'd done this 100 times before, and it always played out the same. They argued, they demanded lawyers, they claimed discrimination, and in the end it didn't matter. The system was on his side. It always had been. But something gnawed at the edge of his mind as he pulled onto Main Street. In the rearview mirror, Jade sat perfectly still, her gaze fixed straight ahead. No panic, no anger, just calm acceptance, like someone watching the first act of a play they'd already seen to its bitter end. That was the moment Decker should have known this time was different, but he didn't. He just tightened his grip on the wheel, irritation simmering beneath his skin. By the end of the day, he thought, she'd learn who was really in charge. Or so he believed. Decker's patrol car rumbled down Main Street, the red and blue lights still flashing as if to announce his authority to the quiet town. In the back seat, Jade Bennett sat with her wrists tightly cuffed behind her, her posture rigid, but her expression calm. Decker kept glancing at her through the rearview mirror, expecting her to break the silence, to beg, to protest, to curse him out like so many others had. But Jade didn't move, didn't speak, didn't give him anything to latch onto. It was infuriating. "What's the matter?" Decker sneered, voice sharp with irritation. "Nothing to say now, Miss High and Mighty?" Jade's gaze didn't waver from the horizon outside the window. Nothing I say would matter to you, Officer Decker. You've already decided what you want to believe. The calm certainty in her voice hit him harder than any insult could have. Decker's grip tightened on the steering wheel, knuckles whitening. He was supposed to be in control here. He was the law. And yet, somehow, the woman in the back seat, the one in cuffs, was making him feel like the one being judged. The courthouse loomed ahead, its white columns gleaming under the mid-morning sun. Decker didn't bother calling in the detainment. Why would he? It wasn't like she mattered. He'd booked plenty of people without paperwork before. Just a quiet misunderstanding that got swept under the rug. Millfield's system protected its own, and Decker had always been on the right side of it. As Decker pulled into the courthouse lot, Decker glanced back again. Jade was watching him now, her dark eyes steady. No panic, no desperation, just calm, unnerving composure, the kind